Hey guys, Titan Apprentice, welcome back to the channel. 5 things you need for the next Great Depression. The Great Depression was almost 100 years ago, and history likes to repeat itself. Now, since the last Great Depression, we have not had another one. We've had multiple recessions and multiple tough times, but no other Great Depression. What are some things that went wrong during the first Great Depression that made it that bad? The unemployment rate was at 25%. Now, during the Great Recession in 2008, it got up to 10, maybe 12% in some cases, so double that. The stock market absolutely bottomed out and crashed because a lot of people in the 1920s were buying stuff through loans, were buying more than they could afford and just putting it basically on a credit card of their time. A lot of businesses were overestimating their value. We're seeing some of that today. We're seeing these banks starting to go under. We're seeing these businesses, their stocks are starting to take a drop. We're seeing the overprice in the housing market and in the vehicle market. If those two bubbles pop, we could have '08 plus some. So we could see something similar to another Great Depression if the trend keeps continuing. So what are 5 things that I personally believe that we need? So the first thing you need is land. It doesn't have to be your land, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But you need a place to disappear off to. And I'm not talking about going off grid and bugging out, but a place you can disappear from your big city. I don't want to be in New York, Atlanta, Chicago when a Great Depression occurs, because we realized the last time those weren't the best places to be. You need a place where you can go. A place where you can restart. Start over with your family. Start over with your little groups. A place that you can live out your life and hopefully grow your own food. During the first Great Depression, people found land where they could. And they grew anything and everything that they could on those lots. It didn't have to be their personal lot. They didn't have to pay for it or have the deed to that area. But they did want to grow something on that area. Now, me personally, I don't want to rely on a meal source from a small community garden. Community gardens are fine if you get 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 acres. But a 1 acre community garden for 1,000 people surrounding you, not the best idea. So again, you want some place to run off to. Could be your land, could be a buddy's land, could be a guy you work with. Go to his homestead and start helping him out. You want a place that you can grow food, where you can spend time with your family, where you can raise your family and not have to rely on soup kitchens for your next meal. The second thing you need is lights and power. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, wait a minute, but listen. Lights and power are the most often overlooked barter and trade item during an SHTF event. And nowadays, you can have power generation basically in the palm of your hand. During the first Great Depression, not that many people had power. It was less than 50% of all Americans had actual power to their homes. I was talking to my uncle about my grandma, who was a Great Depression era child. They didn't have electricity until the 40s. They didn't have a road cut to their house with gravel on it, not even a paved road, until the 50s. So they lived the Great Depression just like they lived every day before the Great Depression. No power, no lights, no running water, ran on kerosene lanterns and kerosene lights. It was another day to them. But that was 100 years ago. Nowadays, you're poor if you can't afford your power bill. We are so used to having lights and power coming on a flip of a switch that it's crazy, and it's almost child abuse if you decide to go off grid, or you decide to, you know what, I can't afford the power bill this month, and shut your lights off. You will get your kids taken away if that happens. You will get your elderly parents taken away if that happens. It's almost abuse. So we are so accustomed to lights and power that if another Great Depression occurred, there would be millions of people left in the dark. Having a little bit of power, having some lights, can go a long way. rechargeable batteries, solar powered lights, solar powered power stations. You can get enough of these things, or the Blue Yetis, or whatever brand you prefer, and you can run your entire home. Yes, it's costly, but in the end, if this situation were to occur, you'd be the only person in town with power, and you can throw out some solar panels and light up your home. The third thing you need for the next Great Depression goes against a lot of people's mentality when it comes to prepping, and that is you need people. During the first Great Depression, you had families moving into one another's homes. 8 people couldn't afford their own separate house payment, so they all moved into one house. And what little bit of work they did paid for that one house payment, paid for the meals for that one house, paid for the water bill if they had one, paid for the repairs for that one house. It is hard for one person to grow enough food to feed themselves and their family for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years by themselves. But if you had 10 people doing it, 15 people doing it, sure, you would need more food, but you would also have more hands on deck. And let's say you didn't lose your job. I work 12 hours a day. So do I really want to come home from work and then go work in the fields for another 5, 6, 7 hours every single day? No. But if I had people living with me who didn't have a job that day, who weren't working that day, guess what? You're in the field. You're plowing the fields, you're watering the crops, you're picking the melons, you're doing whatever to help out the family. You're doing whatever to help out the household. You need people. And a lot of us think like, oh man, if this happens again, it's going to be gunning and running every day. You need people for that too. A defensive plan has to have people. You can't run a defensive plan by yourself. You have to sleep at some point in time. While you're looking over here, I'm sneaking in the back door over here. You cannot defend your own homestead or your own bug out location with one person or even one family unless that family is just massive. You need people. The fourth thing that you need for the next Great Depression is skills. Right? We've talked about gardening, we've talked about livestock, raising livestock, talked about perimeter defense and defending your little bug out homestead location. That land that you find is useless unless you know how to grow crops. It's useless unless you know how to put seeds in the ground and get some sort of reward from those seeds. And I'll do an entire video on the skills you need for the Great Depression, but it's not just the gardening skills. It's also the barter and trade skills where if you're not working, well, that sucks, but you can go use that skill for something else. You can go use that skill and trade for some food. Use a skill and go trade for a job. People got through the first Great Depression because of their skills. They were tough SOBs. It is the silent generation. They did the Great Depression, then they did World War II and the rationing that came with it. Most people nowadays probably wouldn't survive any of that. You need skills. These people were skilled. They were talented. And the fifth thing that I recommend you have for the next Great Depression is a plan. I've already mentioned having a plan to move into other people's houses or have people move in with you. I've already mentioned about growing a garden. Well, it takes certain seeds a certain season to grow them, and then you have to know when to harvest them. Then you have to know how to preserve them. That's a plan. You have to have a plan in place to do all of that. You need a plan to say, okay, just because we harvested all of this doesn't mean we can eat it. We have to plan our meals for the next 6 months, 8 months to a year. We have to plan in case our fall crops don't come in. We have to plan what we're going to sell, what we're going to trade, what we're going to barter off for our next meal. You have to plan who's watching the kids. You have to plan when you're going to go get water. Because if your water's not running, where are you getting water from? You got to walk 5 miles down to the creek. That's going to take time. That's going to take energy and effort. It's all about planning. And you can have a great plan and it goes to shit. You can have a terrible plan and it's great. It works great. Plans are going to change depending on the weather, the season, the age of your people, the timing, the crops, the ground. It doesn't matter. Plans are going to change. Be able to change with those plans. But have a plan in place. Just because you have the land, just because you have the power, the lights, the people, if you don't have a plan, you're not getting very far. You could have all the other things, but if you're not planning to do a spring crop, if those seeds weren't in the ground at a certain point in time, they're not going to grow. If you don't have a plan for sanitation, if you don't have a plan for going to get water, those things are going to kick your butt when they come, and they will come. If you don't have a plan for defense, somebody can come in and take every single thing you have. Have a plan. So I do have a skills video for the Great Depression and a tips video for the next Great Depression coming out here pretty soon. I'm on this little Great Depression kick. It's real fun right now. So you can either comment down below what I forgot, or you can wait for those videos to come out. But either way, let me know down below. Hope you enjoyed it. And let me know what you're planning for. Are you planning for another Great Depression to hit? Do you think another Great Depression will hit? Or are we going to see hyperinflation first? Let me know down below. That's all I got for today's video. Y'all stay safe out there.